Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck tech idea. Today we are looking at the Jank commander himself, the infamous Cruelclaw, a 3-mana 3/3 with Menace, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost. You'll definitely be hated at the table if you're playing 98 lands and 1 Worldfire, so we are not going to do that. Still, we want to have a very high mana curve, so we can cascade into very powerful spells that will win us the game. Of course, we will play a few cheaper spells simply to make infamous Cruelclaw unblockable, but the overall CMC of this deck is really high. Artifacts that we want to hit with this ability are, for example, Portal to Phyrexia, a 9-mana artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and it's a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. Keep in mind that you can target any graveyard, so it's not too bad if you haven't discarded a powerful creature to this ability of Cruelclaw. We definitely want to hit into Shemil, the Inner Sun, a 6-mana legendary artifact, and spells you control can't be countered, which is especially helpful as Cruelclaw's trigger will still cast that spell, and making that one uncounterable will definitely upset all of the opponent's blue players. Furthermore, at the beginning of your end step, discover 5. This is great as we have a lot of powerful spells in this deck which will cost more than 5, and with Shemil we can filter out all of our cheaper spells. We also want to hit into Baldur's Citadel, a 6-mana legendary artifact, and you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library, and if you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. You can also tap it and sacrifice 10 non-land permanents, so each opponent loses 10 life. Of course, the alternative casting cost will definitely make you suffer, as you only have high CMC spells in your deck, but just a few of them will be enough to close out the game. Sorceries that we want to hit are, for example, Fevered Suspicion, an 8-mana sorcery, and each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You also may cast any number of spells from among those non-land cards without paying their mana cost, and in addition to that this spell has Rebound, so you can exile it as it resolves, and at the beginning of your next upkeep you can cast this spell without paying its mana cost again. So casting spells worth a total of 16 mana for free sounds pretty nice. You also want to hit the Motherlode, a 7-mana sorcery, and you discover 10. If the discovered card's mana value is less than 10, create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference. This is helpful as Cruelclaw will definitely eat some removal of your opponents, so those tapped treasure tokens can either help you to recast Cruelclaw, or you can just hardcast a few of your bomb spells. You also want to hit Call Forth the Tempest, an 8-mana sorcery which lets you cascade and cascade again. After that, Call Forth the Tempest deals damage to each creature your opponents control equal to the total mana value of other spells you've cast this turn. Due to the fact that we have to discard cards for the alternative casting cost of Cruelclaw's ability, we want to fill up our graveyard with cards that have a very high CMC and most preferably creatures, so that we get a very high payoff when we hit Rise of the Dark Realms, a 9-mana sorcery, and you put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. We can fill up all graveyards even more with sorceries like Breach the Multiverse, a 7-mana sorcery, and each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control, and then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. A card that I haven't seen over the past few years finally finds a home in this deck. Army of the Damned, an 8-mana sorcery, create 13 tap 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Just by discarding a card you will put 26 power and toughness onto the battlefield, and in addition to that it also has flashback for 10 mana, so you can also discard this one to Cruelclaw's ability and cast it later in the game from your graveyard. And now let's talk about creatures that you want to hit with this ability. Shard of the Nightbringer, an 8-mana 8/8 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, target opponent loses half their life, rounded up. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Due to the fact that we are casting spells from exile, creatures like Keeper of the Secrets are extremely helpful. A 6-mana 6/4 with First Strike and Haste, and whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Keeper of Secrets deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. Nalfashni is also a great creature card in this deck, a 6-mana 4/6 with flying, and whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains haste, and at the beginning of the next end step sacrifice this permanent. As we are in a reanimator theme, we also play Sheoldred Whispering One, a 7 mana 6/6 with Swamp Walk, and at the beginning of your upkeep return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. She also helps us to make Cruelclaw connect, because at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep that player sacrifices a creature. We play Villas Broker of Blood, an 8 mana 8/8 with flying, and for 1 black and paying 2 life, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. With the target on the stack you will also draw a few cards, because whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. Of course we have to play an Eldrazi, Emrakul the World Anew, a 12 mana 12/12, and when you cast this spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls. It has flying and protection from spells and from permanents that were cast this turn, and when it leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures you control. You can also cast him for his madness cost by paying 6 colorless mana, though it is quite hard to get this mana together in a Rakdos deck, so maybe look out for that when building your mana base. We want to make Cruelclaw connect, so we play Brotherhood Regalia, a 2 mana artifact equipment, and equipped creature has Ward 2, is an assassin in addition to its other types, and can't be blocked. You can equip a legendary creature for 1 generic and a normal creature for 3 generic. We also play Key to the City, a 2 mana artifact, and we can tap it and discard a card, so up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn, and when it becomes untapped you may pay 2 generic, and if you do, draw a card. Connecting several times in a turn is also very helpful, which is why we play Lizard Blades, a 2 mana 1/1 with double strike. You can reconfigure it for 2 mana, and equipped creature has double strike. One of the best equipments in this deck is Lightning Greaves, a 2 mana artifact equipment, and equipped creature has Haste and Shroud, and you can equip it for 0. A little bit worse is Swiftfoot Boots, a 2 mana artifact equipment, and equipped creature has Hexproof and Haste, and the equip cost is 1 generic. Last but not least we play Whisper Silk Cloak, a 3 mana artifact equipment, and equipped creature can't be blocked and has Shroud, and it costs 2 generic to equip it. You want to win more? You get it. We play Sensei's Divining Top, a 1 mana artifact, and for 1 generic look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order, and you can tap it to draw a card and then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. Due to the fact that we are in a very high CMC deck, Sensei's Divining Top doesn't only help us to hit the spells with Cruelclaw's ability that we want to hit, it also helps us to curve out, as most of our spells are very expensive. And last but not least we play Vampiric Tutor, a 1 mana instant, search a library for a card, then shuffle and put that card on top and you lose 2 life. The best window to cast this spell is once you have the Cruelclaw trigger on the stack, so you can search for something that you definitely need in the current situation. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I will play in the infamous Cruelclaw. Let me know down in the comments below which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.